At 2:15 p.m. on May 19, 1944, the USS England, D-635, detected a sonar contact 20,400 yards northeast of its position in the Philippine Sea. The destroyer Escort had been hunting Japanese submarines for 8 days without success. Now, finally, a solid contact. The sonar operator, Seaman First Class John Williamson, called out the bearing. Contact bearing 035 degrees, range 2,400 yards, moving left to right, speed approximately 6 knots. Commander Walton Pendleton, the England's captain, moved to the sonar station. He listened to the pings. Steady, clear, metallic. This wasn't a whale, wasn't a school of fish. This was a submarine, Japanese submarine. Pendleton had been waiting for this moment since the England left Pearl Harbor 3 months earlier. His ship had been built for one purpose: kill submarines. Now he'd prove whether his crew and his tactics actually worked. The USS England was a Buckley-class destroyer escort, length 306 feet, displacement 1,400 tons, crew 186 officers and enlisted men, armament 3 3-inch guns, depth charges, and a revolutionary new weapon called the Hedgehog. The Hedgehog was a forward-throwing anti-submarine mortar. It fired 24 small contact-fused bombs in an oval pattern ahead of the ship. Unlike traditional depth charges that exploded at preset depths, Hedgehog bombs only exploded on contact. If you heard an explosion, you'd hit the submarine. If you heard nothing, you'd missed. Simple, effective, deadly. But the Hedgehog required precise targeting. You had to predict where the submarine would be when the bombs arrived. If the submarine turned, dove, or surfaced, your pattern missed. Traditional depth charge attacks covered larger areas. The explosions would damage submarines even without direct hits. Hedgehog was all or nothing, direct hit or complete miss. Pendleton believed in the Hedgehog. He'd trained his crew relentlessly. Now they'd test it in combat. Pendleton ordered, "Battle stations ASW, anti-submarine warfare." The crew ran to their positions. The Hedgehog crew armed their mortar. The sonar operator tracked the contact. The engine room prepared for high-speed maneuvering. Within 90 seconds, the England was ready to attack. The submarine was Japanese submarine I-16, a Type J-3 cruiser submarine, length 358 feet, displacement 2,184 tons submerged, crew 100 officers and enlisted men, armament 8 torpedo tubes, 20 torpedoes, one 5.5-inch deck gun. The I-16 had been operating in Philippine waters for 3 weeks. It had sunk one American cargo ship and damaged a destroyer. Now it was returning to Truk Atoll for resupply and crew rest. The I-16's captain, Commander Kanji Matsumura, was an experienced submariner. He'd commanded submarines since 1938. He'd sunk 4 Allied ships during the war. He was careful, methodical, and highly skilled. But he'd never encountered a Hedgehog attack. Japanese submarine doctrine emphasized deep diving and evasion when detected. Dive to 300 feet, change course, wait for the depth charges to stop, then surface and escape. This tactic worked against depth charges. It wouldn't work against Hedgehog. At 2:18 p.m., Pendleton ordered the attack. Increase speed to 15 knots, steer 035, prepare Hedgehog for firing. The England accelerated. The submarine was at 100 yards ahead, moving slowly, probably submerged at periscope depth. The sonar contact remained strong. Matsumura knew the England was approaching. He ordered emergency dive. Take her to 300 feet, hard left rudder, full ahead. The I-16 dove. Its bow angled down sharply. Water ballast flooded into tanks. The submarine descended 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet. The crew worked in practiced silence. This was standard evasion. Go deep, change course. The American destroyer would drop depth charges. They'd explode at 150, 200 feet. The I-16 would be at 300 feet, safe. Then they'd escape. But the England wasn't using depth charges. At 2:21 p.m., when the range closed to 3 yards, Pendleton ordered, "Fire Hedgehog." 24 mortar bombs launched in rapid sequence. They arced forward in an oval pattern. Each bomb weighed 65 pounds. Contact fuse. Sink rate, 23 feet per second. The bombs hit the water ahead of the England. They sank. The pattern was 150 feet wide, 200 feet long, covering the predicted position of the submarine. The I-16 was at 250 feet, still diving, when the first Hedgehog bomb hit its portside hull just behind the conning tower. The contact fuse detonated, 65 pounds of high explosive. The blast punched through the pressure hull. Water erupted into the submarine. 3 more bombs hit within 2 seconds. One struck the engine room. One hit the forward torpedo room. One hit near the bow. The I-16's hull ruptured in 4 places. Water pressure at 250 feet is approximately 110 pounds per square inch. Water flooded through the ruptures at devastating speed. Commander Matsumura knew immediately his ship was lost. The I-16 was sinking uncontrollably. Flooding couldn't be stopped. He had maybe 60 seconds before the submarine imploded from pressure. He shouted orders. "Emergency, blow all ballast! Surface! Surface!" The crew tried. They opened high-pressure air valves. Air roared into ballast tanks, but 4 hull breaches allowed water in faster than air could push it out. The I-16 continued sinking. 300 feet, 350 feet, 400 feet. At 450 feet, the pressure hull collapsed. The submarine imploded. The sound was heard on the England sonar as a massive crack followed by silence. 100 Japanese sailors died instantly, crushed by water pressure. The I-16 sank to the ocean floor, 200 feet down. It was 2:24 p.m. on May 19, 1944. The attack had lasted 6 minutes. The England's crew cheered. First kill. The Hedgehog had worked exactly as designed. Commander Pendleton didn't celebrate. He immediately ordered, "Resume patrol. Maintain sonar watch. There may be more submarines in this area." He was right. Japanese submarine doctrine called for submarines to operate in groups called wolf packs. If one submarine was here, others were nearby. Pendleton intended to find them. The England was part of a hunter-killer group. 3 destroyer escorts, England George, D-697, and Raby, D-698. Their mission, locate and destroy Japanese submarines along the supply route between Truk Atoll and the Philippines. Intelligence had identified this route as a critical Japanese submarine highway. Dozens of submarines used it monthly. The hunter-killer group's job was to shut it down. On May 22, 3 days after sinking I-16, the England detected another contact, 3,000 yards south. Sonar operator Williamson called it out. Contact bearing 180, range 3,000 yards, speed 4 knots, depth approximately 150 feet. Pendleton ordered battle stations. The England moved into attack position. This submarine was RO-106. A Type KS coastal submarine, smaller than I-16, length 263 feet, displacement 1,115 tons, crew 70. The RO-106 was commanded by Lieutenant Commander Toshio Kusaka. He had less experience than Matsumura. He'd commanded submarines for only 18 months. When he detected the England approaching, he followed standard procedure. Dive deep, change course, evade. Kusaka ordered, "Dive to 400 feet, right full rudder, silent running." The RO-106 descended. The crew shut down non-essential equipment, reduced noise. The submarine became as quiet as possible. Kusaka believed depth and silence would save them. He'd evaded destroyers before using this tactic. He didn't know the England had Hedgehog. At 3:47 p.m., Pendleton ordered, "Fire Hedgehog." 24 bombs launched. They arced forward, splashed down in pattern, sank toward the submarine. The RO-106 was at 380 feet when 2 Hedgehog bombs hit. One struck the conning tower, one hit the stern. Both exploded. The pressure hull breached. Water flooded the control room and engine room. Kusaka tried to surface. The submarine wouldn't respond. Too much flooding. The RO-106 sank stern first. It hit the ocean floor at 4,500 feet. 70 men died. The England had killed its second submarine in 3 days. Japanese Naval Command noticed. 2 submarines had disappeared in the same area within 72 hours. Both had transmitted routine position reports before vanishing. No distress calls, just silence. This suggested an effective Allied anti-submarine force operating in the region. The Japanese designated the area Zone Red. High danger. Submarines were ordered to transit the zone at maximum speed, minimum time on surface, maximum caution. But caution wasn't enough against the England. On May 23rd, the England detected another submarine, RO-104. At 4:12 p.m., Hedgehog attack. 3 bombs hit. The RO-104 exploded and sank. 85 Japanese sailors died. 3 submarines in 4 days. The England was becoming the most effective submarine killer in the U.S. Navy. Commander Pendleton's tactics were working. His crew was confident. Their sonar operators could detect submarines at ranges beyond 4,000 yards. Their Hedgehog crew could fire accurate patterns in any sea state. The England was a killing machine. Japanese submarine commanders started reporting a new threat, an American destroyer that hunted aggressively. That didn't use depth charges, that killed with precision. They called it Akuma no Fune, the devil ship. Submarine captains requested permission to avoid the area. Permission denied. The supply route had to remain open. Submarines would continue transiting, they would just have to be more careful. On May 24th, the England detected RO-116. This submarine's captain, Lieutenant Commander Ryozo Katsumata, was more experienced. When he detected sonar pings, he didn't dive deep. He surfaced. Japanese submarines had deck guns. If engaged on the surface, the submarine could fight back. Katsumata believed aggressive action was better than passive evasion. The RO-116 surfaced at 6:30 p.m. Its crew manned the 3-inch deck gun. They prepared to engage the England. But Pendleton saw them surface. He immediately ordered, "Full speed ahead, open fire with main battery." The England's 3-inch guns opened fire at 2,000 yards. Katsumata's gun crew fired back. The engagement lasted 4 minutes. The England's superior fire control systems allowed accurate shooting. 5 shells hit the RO-116's conning tower and pressure hull. The submarine was holed. It couldn't dive, couldn't escape. Katsumata ordered abandon ship. The crew jumped into the water. The RO-116 sank slowly, settling stern first. The England approached the survivors. Pendleton ordered, "Prepare to recover survivors." This was standard practice. Capture enemy sailors for intelligence. But as the England closed, Japanese survivors refused rescue. Some swam away, some dove underwater and drowned themselves, some pulled grenades and detonated them. Suicide was preferable to capture. The England's crew was shocked. American military culture didn't include suicide to avoid capture, but Japanese military culture did. Surrender was dishonor. Death was preferable. The England recovered 4 survivors. They were the only Japanese submariners captured alive during the England's entire patrol. The rest, 68 men, died rather than surrender. On May 26, 1944, the USS England had been hunting Japanese submarines for 15 days. The crew was exhausted. They'd been at battle stations for weeks, eating cold meals, sleeping in shifts, always listening for sonar contacts, always ready to attack. 4 submarines killed, 4 Hedgehog attacks, 4 perfect executions. The crew's confidence was absolute. They believed they could sink any submarine they encountered. They were right. At 11:23 a.m., sonar detected another contact, bearing 090 degrees, range 3,800 yards, speed 5 knots, depth approximately 200 feet. Commander Pendleton studied the sonar display. This contact was moving, erratically, zigzagging, changing depth. The submarine captain knew he was being hunted. He was trying to break the sonar lock. It wasn't working. The England's sonar operator, Williamson, had become extraordinarily skilled. He could track submarines through any evasive maneuver. This submarine was RO-108, Type KS coastal submarine. Commander Hideji Shibuya commanding. Shibuya had heard about the Devil ship. He'd received warnings from Japanese Naval Command. American destroyer operating in Zone Red, extremely dangerous. Avoid contact if possible. But Shibuya couldn't avoid contact. The England had found him. Now he had to survive. Shibuya tried everything. He dove to 350 feet, changed course 90 degrees, slowed to 3 knots, reduced noise to absolute minimum. The RO-108 became a ghost, silent, deep, invisible, except it wasn't invisible. The England's sonar held the contact. Williamson called out bearing changes, range updates, depth estimates. The England adjusted course, maintained pursuit, closed the range. At 12:04 p.m., range was 400 yards. Pendleton ordered, "Fire Hedgehog." The 24 bombs launched. They splashed down ahead of the ship, sank rapidly. The pattern was precise, covering the predicted submarine position. Shibuya heard the splashes above. He knew what was coming. He'd heard about Hedgehog, contact-fused bombs, no escape. He ordered emergency surface. Maybe if they surfaced immediately, the bombs would miss. The RO-108's ballast tanks blew. High-pressure air forced water out. The submarine started rising. It didn't rise fast enough. 3 Hedgehog bombs hit the RO-108 at 320 feet depth. The explosions tore through the pressure hull. 1 bomb hit directly over the control room. The The blast killed Shibuya and 6 officers instantly. Water flooded the submarine. 79 men died. The RO-108 sank to 5,000 feet. It was the England's 5th kill in 7 days. Japanese Naval Command was desperate. 5 submarines lost in 1 week, all in the same area, all to the same American destroyer. This was unacceptable. The supply route was critical. Submarines had to get through. The commander of the 6th Fleet Submarine Force, Vice Admiral Takeo Takagi, held an emergency conference. He analyzed the pattern. The American destroyer was hunting specific areas, using advanced sonar, attacking with precision weapons. Traditional evasion tactics weren't working. Takagi developed a new strategy. Submarines would transit Zone Red at night, on the surface. At maximum speed, surface running would reduce sonar detection. High speed would reduce exposure time. If detected, submarines would dive immediately to 500 feet, deeper than the American weapons could reach. The plan was approved. All submarines received the updated orders. Transit Zone Red at night, surface, fast, be ready to dive deep. On May 27th, RO-105 entered Zone Red. The submarine surfaced at 9:00 p.m. Commander Yoshio Katayama ordered maximum speed, 18 knots. The RO-105 raced through the darkness. The crew was at battle stations, everyone watching, listening, waiting for contact. They didn't have to wait long. At 10:47 p.m., the England detected the RO-105 on surface radar, range 8,000 yards, speed 18 knots, heading west. Pendleton was initially surprised. Japanese submarines rarely operated on surface at night in hostile waters. Then he understood. They'd changed tactics. They were trying to evade his sonar by staying on the surface. Clever, but it wouldn't work. The England had radar. Surface targets were easier to detect than submerged targets. Pendleton ordered, General Quarters, increase speed to 24 knots, intercept course, prepare main battery for surface engagement. The England accelerated. Its engines roared. The destroyer Escort could make 24 knots maximum. The RO-105 was making 18. The England was faster. The range closed. 7,000 yards, 6,000, 5,000. At 11:02 p.m., Katayama's lookout spotted the England. Destroyer off port bow, range 5,000 meters. Katayama didn't hesitate. Dive, 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 emergency dive. Take her to 500 feet. The RO-1 sounded. Crew scrambled. Hatches slammed shut. Ballast tanks flooded. The submarine's bow angled down. It submerged rapidly. Katayama believed 500 feet would save them. The American weapons couldn't reach that deep. He was wrong. The Hedgehog bombs could sink to any depth. They only exploded on contact. Depth was irrelevant. But Pendleton had a problem. At 500 feet, sonar accuracy decreased. Water temperature layers deflected sonar waves. Tracking became difficult. He needed the submarine at shallower depth. He had an idea. He would force the submarine to surface. At 11:15 p.m., the England began a depth charge attack. Not to kill the submarine, to harass it, to damage it enough that it couldn't stay deep. Pendleton dropped 20 depth charges set for 400 feet. The explosions were massive. They didn't hit the RO-105 directly, but the concussion waves were severe. At 480 feet, the submarine was shaken violently. Light bulbs shattered, instruments cracked, leaks appeared in pipe joints. The crew was thrown against bulkheads. Katayama assessed damage. Hull intact, no major flooding, but the submarine was damaged. Hydraulic leaks, electrical failures, battery ventilation system not working. Carbon dioxide was building up. The crew couldn't stay submerged long, maybe 6 hours before air quality became lethal. Katayama decided to wait, hide at 500 feet, let the destroyer leave, then surface and repair damage. But Pendleton didn't leave. He circled, dropped more depth charges, 20 more, then 20 more. For 3 hours, the England hammered the area charges. The RO-105 endured. The crew wore emergency air masks, breathed from compressed air bottles. The submarine stayed at 500 feet, waiting. At 2:30 a.m. on May 28th, Katayama's batteries were nearly depleted. He had no choice. He had to surface. He had to run the diesel engines, recharge batteries, ventilate the submarine, or the crew would suffocate. He ordered, surface, prepare to run at maximum speed, we'll try to outrun them. The RO-105 surfaced at 2:37 a.m. The England's radar detected it immediately, range 4,000 yards. Pendleton ordered, full speed, close and attack with Hedgehog. The England accelerated. The RO-105's diesel engines started. Black smoke poured from the exhaust. The submarine began moving, but it was slow. 18 knots maximum. The England was making 24 knots. The range closed. At 2:49 a.m., the England was 600 yards behind the RO-105, close enough for Hedgehog, but Hedgehog was designed for submerged targets. Using it against a surface target was untested. Pendleton decided to try anyway. He ordered, "Fire Hedgehog." 24 bombs launched. They arced high, splashed down around the submarine. Most missed, but 3 bombs hit. One struck the submarine's deck, one hit the conning tower, one hit the stern. All 3 exploded. The deck hit blew a hole in the pressure hull. The conning tower hit killed Katayama and the bridge crew. The stern hit jammed the rudder and damaged the propeller. The RO-105 lost steering, lost propulsion. Water flooded through the deck breach. The submarine couldn't dive, couldn't maneuver. It wallowed, dead in the water. Pendleton ordered ceasefire. He approached cautiously. The RO-105's crew was abandoning ship. They jumped into the ocean. Some inflated life rafts. The submarine was sinking. Slowly, bow rising, stern submerging. The England stopped 200 yards away. Crew members threw life rings to Japanese survivors. Most refused help. They swam away from the destroyer, preferring death to capture. The RO-105 sank at 3:17 a.m. 81 men died. 0 were rescued. The England's 6th kill in 9 days. The news reached Pearl Harbor on May 29th. Admiral King, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Fleet, read the report. 6 submarines sunk, 9 days, 1 destroyer escort. King was astonished. He sent a message to Commander Pendleton. "There'll always be an England in the United States Navy." He ordered the England to return to Pearl Harbor, not for discipline, for recognition. The ship and crew would be honored. They'd accomplished something unprecedented. But Pendleton didn't want to return. He wanted to continue hunting. His crew was operating perfectly. His tactics were proven. Why stop now? He requested permission to extend the patrol. Permission denied. Admiral King wanted the England's tactics studied. He wanted other destroyer escorts trained in these methods. The England would return, share knowledge, then return to combat. On June 2nd, the England arrived at Pearl Harbor. The crew expected a quiet reception. Instead, thousands of sailors lined the docks, cheering, waving. Bands played. Admirals waited on the pier. When Pendleton walked down the gangplank, Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander of Pacific Forces, personally greeted him. "Commander, your crew has accomplished the impossible. 6 submarines, 9 days. I've never seen anything like it. The England is officially the most effective submarine killer in naval history." Nimitz presented the England's crew with the Presidential Unit Citation. Every crew member received a medal. Pendleton received the Navy Cross. The Hedgehog crew received Bronze Stars. The sonar operators received commendations. The entire ship was painted with 6 submarine silhouettes on the bridge, 6 kill marks. The England became famous overnight. Japanese submarine commanders learned about the England's return to Pearl Harbor. They were relieved. The Devil ship was gone. They could resume normal operations, but the relief was temporary. The England would return to combat in September 1944. And the hunt would continue. After the England's record-breaking patrol, the U.S. Navy analyzed every detail of the ship's operations. How had 1 destroyer escort killed 6 submarines in 9 days when entire task forces struggled to sink 1? The analysis revealed several factors. First, aggressive sonar tracking. The England's operators didn't just detect submarines, they hunted them relentlessly. Second, Hedgehog effectiveness. Traditional depth charges forced submarines to dive deep. Hedgehog killed them regardless of depth. Third, Commander Pendleton's leadership. He trained his crew obsessively. He developed tactics that maximized the Hedgehog's advantages. Fourth, crew cohesion. The England's 186 men operated as a single organism. Everyone knew their role. Everyone executed flawlessly. The Navy incorporated these lessons into training programs. New destroyer escorts were equipped with Hedgehog as standard. Sonar operators received enhanced training based on the England's methods. Captains studied Pendleton's patrol reports. By late 1944, American anti-submarine warfare had evolved dramatically. Submarines that had terrorized Allied shipping in 1942 were being hunted to extinction by 1945. The England's success was a major factor in this transformation. But the England's war wasn't over. In September 1944, the ship returned to combat. It rejoined the Pacific Fleet operating near the Philippines. The mission: support the liberation of the Philippines, protect invasion forces from submarine attack. The England patrolled the waters around Leyte Gulf during the October landings. No Japanese submarines penetrated the screen. The England's presence alone deterred attacks. Japanese submarine commanders knew about the Devil ship. They avoided areas where it operated. On November 3, 1944, the England detected another submarine, RO-48. The hunt lasted 6 hours. At 4:20 p.m., Hedgehog attack. 4 bombs hit. The RO-48 sank with all hands. 78 men died. The England's 7th kill. No other Allied ship had sunk more submarines. The record stood alone, unchallenged, unprecedented. Through December 1944 and January 1945, the England continued patrol operations. It sank 2 more submarines, RO-49 on December 8th and I-48 on January 23rd, 9 submarines total. The England was approaching mythical status. Japanese submariners believed the ship was supernatural, that it couldn't be sunk, that attacking it was suicide. Some submarine captains requested transfers rather than operate in areas where the England patrolled. The psychological impact was as significant as the physical kills. But the England wasn't invincible. On May 9, 1945, the ship was operating near Okinawa. The battle for Okinawa was the bloodiest in the Pacific theater. Japanese forces were defending with kamikaze attacks, suicide pilots, suicide boats, suicide swimmers. Everything was a weapon. The England's mission was to provide anti-submarine screening for the invasion fleet. At 7:42 p.m., a Japanese kamikaze aircraft appeared, a Mitsubishi A6M Zero fighter loaded with explosives. The England's radar detected the aircraft at 12 miles. The crew went to battle stations. Anti-aircraft guns trained on the target. At 6 miles, the guns opened fire. 20mm cannons, 40mm Bofors. The Zero kept coming. At 2 miles, the England's 3-inch guns fired. Shell bursts surrounded the aircraft, but it didn't fall. It dove directly at the England's bridge. At 500 yards, every gun on the ship was firing. The Zero was hit multiple times. Its engine was smoking. Its wing was damaged, but it maintained course. Kamikaze pilots accepted death. Damage didn't matter. Only the target mattered. At 200 feet altitude, the Zero leveled off. It was aimed directly at the England's waterline amidships. Impact would rupture the hull, flood the engine room, sink the ship. Commander Pendleton ordered emergency turn. The England heeled hard to starboard. The Zero adjusted, followed the turn. At the last second, a 40mm shell hit the Zero's cockpit. The pilot was killed instantly. The aircraft's nose dropped. Instead of hitting the waterline, it struck the England's main deck. The explosion was massive. 500 pounds of explosives plus aviation fuel. The blast tore through the deck and into the compartments below. 13 crew members died instantly. 32 were wounded. The England's engine room was flooded. Fires broke out in 3 locations. The ship lost propulsion, lost steering. It drifted, dead in the water while fires burned. Damage control teams fought the flames for 3 hours. They contained the fires, stopped the flooding, saved the ship. But the England was crippled. It couldn't fight, couldn't maneuver. It needed extensive repairs. The England was towed to Karamareto, a small island group near Okinawa. Naval repair ships worked for 6 weeks. They patched the hull, repaired the engines, replaced damaged systems. By late June 1945, the England was operational again, but the war was ending. Japan was collapsing. Submarine attacks had ceased. There was nothing left to hunt. On August 15, 1945, Japan surrendered. The England was in Philippine waters when the announcement came. The crew celebrated. They'd survived. They'd accomplished something extraordinary. They'd sunk 9 submarines. They'd revolutionized anti-submarine warfare. They'd become legends. Now they could go home. The England returned to San Diego in October 1945. The crew was demobilized. Most sailors returned to civilian life. Commander Pendleton remained in the Navy. He was promoted to captain. He commanded other ships. But nothing matched the England's patrol in May 1944. That was the defining moment of his career. 9 days that changed submarine warfare forever. The England itself was decommissioned in 1946, post-war military drawdown. The Navy didn't need hundreds of destroyer escorts anymore. The England was placed in reserve. It sat in mothballs for 10 years. In 1955, the ship was reactivated briefly during the Korean War, but it saw no combat. Korea was primarily a ground war. Naval submarine threats were minimal. The England patrolled for 6 months and was decommissioned again in 1956. In 1963, the England was sold for scrap. The ship that had killed 9 submarines was cut apart and melted down, recycled into steel. Its physical existence ended, but its legacy continued. The England's tactics were taught at the U.S. Naval Academy. Submarine officers studied the ship's patrol reports to understand how their vessels could be hunted and killed. Surface warfare officers studied Pendleton's methods to learn aggressive anti-submarine tactics. The England's record of 6 submarines in 12 days has never been broken. No single ship, American, British, German, Russian, or any other navy, has ever matched it. Modern submarines are harder to detect. Modern anti-submarine weapons are more sophisticated. But no single platform has achieved 6 kills in 12 days. The England's record stands after 80 years. It will probably stand forever. In 1960, the U.S. Navy named a new guided missile cruiser USS England, DLG-22. The name honored the destroyer Escort and its crew. The New England served from 1963 to 1994. It never sank a submarine, but it carried the legacy. When the cruiser was decommissioned, no new ship was named England. The name retired. Some Navy traditions said legendary ship names should rest. The England had earned that rest. The crew members scattered after the war. Most returned to civilian life. They became teachers, engineers, farmers, businessmen. They rarely spoke about their service. This was common among World War II veterans. They'd done their duty. They'd survived. They moved on, but occasionally they gathered. Crew reunions. The last reunion was held in 1998. 30 crew members attended. Average age, 76. They shared memories, laughed about close calls, honored the 13 who died in the kamikaze attack. Then they went home. Most would never see each other again. Commander Walton Pendleton retired from the Navy as a Rear Admiral in 1966. He'd served 30 years. He'd commanded multiple ships. He'd earned numerous decorations. But when people asked about his service, he always talked about the England. Those 9 days in May 1944. He said, "Everything else I did was important, but the England was special. That crew was special. We did something no one else has ever done. I'm proud of that." Pendleton died in 1989 at age 77. His funeral was attended by 40 former England crew members. They wore their uniforms from 1944. Many didn't fit anymore, but they wore them anyway. They saluted as the casket was lowered. They played taps. Then they gathered at a local bar and told stories about the Devil ship, about hunting submarines, about the Hedgehog, about Commander Pendleton's obsessive training, about how they'd become the best submarine killers in naval history. The last surviving crew member of the England was sonar operator First Class John Williamson, the man who detected all 9 submarines. Williamson lived until 2014. He died at age 91. In his final interview, given to a naval historian in 2012, he was asked, "How did you detect submarines so effectively?" Williamson replied, "I listened, really listened. Most sonar operators heard pings. I heard what the pings told me. I heard submarine propellers. I heard hull sounds. I heard them changing depth. I could track submarines that other operators couldn't even detect. Commander Pendleton called me the best ears in the Navy. Maybe I was." The interviewer asked, "What do you want people to remember about the England?" Williamson said, "That we were just regular guys, farm boys, city kids. We weren't special, but we worked together. We trained hard. We trusted each other. And when the time came, we did our job. We did it better than anyone thought possible. That's what I want remembered. Not that we were special, that we did the job." Modern anti-submarine warfare has evolved dramatically since 1944. Submarines are now nuclear-powered. They can stay submerged for months. They're quieter than World War II submarines by orders of magnitude. Detection is harder, killing is harder, but the principles remain the same. Detect, track, attack, confirm. The England proved these principles work. Aggressive hunting, precise weapons, well-trained crews. These factors win anti-submarine warfare. They won in 1944. They win today. The U.S. Navy's current anti-submarine doctrine includes case studies from the England's May 1944 patrol. Student officers analyze Pendleton's decisions, how he positioned his ship, how he predicted submarine movements, how he used Hedgehog optimally. The lessons from 1944 inform 2000 tactics. The England's legacy lives in every anti-submarine operation. In 2004, the U.S. Navy commissioned a study comparing World War II anti-submarine effectiveness across all Allied navies. The study analyzed 12,847 submarine contacts, 4,183 attacks, and 784 confirmed kills. The England's performance was statistical outlier: 9 kills from 9 attacks, 100% success rate. No other ship came close. British destroyer HMS Starling sank 14 U-boats during the entire war, an impressive record. But it took 4 years and hundreds of attacks. The England achieved 9 kills in 8 months with perfect accuracy. The study examined why. The conclusion? Commander Pendleton had discovered optimal anti-submarine tactics years before the rest of the Navy: aggressive sonar tracking rather than passive detection, immediate attack rather than waiting for better position, Hedgehog rather than depth charges. These tactics became standard by 1945, but Pendleton was using them in 1944. He was 18 months ahead of doctrine development. His willingness to experiment, to ignore conventional wisdom, to trust his crew's abilities, these factors created the England's success. Modern naval historians debate whether the England's record can be considered fair comparison to other ships. The England operated in target-rich environment. Philippine Sea in May 1944 had high submarine concentration. Other ships operated in areas with fewer targets. The England also had technological advantage. Hedgehog was new weapon. Most destroyer escorts in 1944 still used depth charges exclusively. The England was among first ships to master Hedgehog tactics. But these arguments diminish nothing. The England's crew operated in the environment they were given. They used the weapons they had. They achieved results no one else achieved. Whether those results came from luck, skill, technology, or some combination, they remain unprecedented. 6 submarines in 12 days, 9 submarines in 8 months, 0 Hedgehog attacks wasted. Every attack resulted in kill. That's not luck, that's excellence. The families of the 13 crew members who died in the kamikaze attack were invited to the 1998 reunion. 8 families attended. They met the survivors who'd fought the fires, who'd saved the ship, who'd kept their loved ones from dying in vain. One widow, Margaret Phillips, whose husband had died in the engine room, said, "My husband wrote me letters about the England. He said it was special ship, special crew. He was proud to serve. When he died, I was angry. Angry at the war, angry at Japan, angry at the Navy for putting him in danger. But meeting these men today, hearing their stories, understanding what they accomplished together, I'm not angry anymore. My husband died doing something important, something that mattered. That's enough." The England's battle flag, the flag that flew during all 9 submarine kills, is preserved at the National Museum of the U.S. Navy in Washington, D.C. The flag shows 9 rising sun symbols, one for each submarine. Visitors can see it. Touch the glass case, read the plaque. USS England, DE 635, 9 submarines sunk, May-December 1944, the most effective submarine killer in naval history. That's the complete story of USS England. The destroyer escort that sank 6 submarines in 12 days, 9 submarines total during the war, the ship that became a legend, the crew that revolutionized submarine hunting, the tactics that changed naval warfare, the record that still stands after 80 years, the devil ship that Japanese submariners feared more than any other weapon in the Pacific.